Hello, my friends, and welcome to Genealogy Gems Podcast episode number 305. In this episode, we're going to talk about two of the most important factors to take into consideration as you go about your research. These are essential, and I have lots of tools and strategies to help you make the most of them. And then at the end of the show, we're going to head to the mailbox to answer a question about AI. It's an ever-changing subject that we need to stay on top of. So I've got some answers for you in the mailbox segment. But first, we're going to be talking about these two most important factors, and we will do that right after this. Today's episode is sponsored by MyHeritage, a global discovery platform enjoyed by 110 million people worldwide. MyHeritage has it all and offers a full-service experience that bridges your past, present, and future. The MyHeritage DNA Kit reveals your ethnic origins, and it finds your new relatives based on shared DNA. It's popular all over the world, and their constantly growing DNA database means that more matches to new relatives are just around the corner. You're going to receive a percentage breakdown of your ethnic origins for 42 supported regions and weekly email updates as new DNA matches are found. It's also the leading DNA service for anyone with European origins. So make the most of your DNA results with a MyHeritage subscription and access advanced tools for genetic genealogy, like the theory of family relativity, autoclusters, shared ancestral places, and a lot more. Order your kit today at myheritage.com/DNA. Think about the most frustrating ancestor in your tree, the one with a name so common it feels like there are thousands of them, all staring back at you from your search results. You type the name into a big genealogy website or Google, and suddenly you're drowning in possibilities, but with no confidence that any of them belong to your family. Well, today we are going to fix that. By the end of this session together, you're going to know how to turn any common named ancestor into unique individuals, finding their specific records and learning so much more about them using two of the most important identifiers in genealogy. I'll show you how to harness those details on the major genealogy websites, how to craft Google searches that slice away about 75% of the noise, and how-to techniques that will clearly distinguish your ancestor from everyone else. So how do you start teasing all of these people apart to get to the one that you're looking for? Well, there are two essential factors that we need to establish out of the gate. These two elements not only set your research target apart as a unique individual, but they can be leveraged to shed so much light on what their life was really like. The two most important factors in identifying your ancestor are time and place. It's like if I witnessed a hit-and-run accident and the police officer asked me what kind of car it was, I'd say blue. But my husband would chime in and say, oh, it was a 76 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme, two-door coupe. They would never be able to track down that car with my description. Well, when researching our ancestors, it's kind of the same situation. There are lots of people with the same name. For instance, when I search for Lars Larson over at Ancestry, I get about 400,000 records, but we can do so much better than that. In genealogy, just typing in the name alone is kind of like saying blue car. Time and place are the make, model, and license plate. We're going to use those to pick out your ancestor in a sea of lookalikes. These two factors help us distinguish our unique ancestor apart from others with the same name. Instead of Lars Larson, I should think, Lars Larson, who lived in Winthrop, Minnesota between about 1871 and 1937. Now I've got something I can work with. Now, there are other unique identifiers like the name of their spouse, their occupation, their siblings, and so on. But I see so many genealogists who don't maximize just these two top factors, and that's our goal today. You need to be using this information to your greatest advantage as you go about your genealogy research. So let's start where we usually do, over at one of the big genealogy websites. When you search at any of the big genealogy websites like MyHeritage, Ancestry, or Family Search, you're going to notice that along with the first and the last name, there are fields presented for place and time. So don't overlook these. Those place and year prompts aren't just optional extras. They're really the key to separating your ancestor from everyone else. At Family Search, they prompt you for places lived and year of birth. At MyHeritage, you'll find fields for year of birth and place of birth. It's not mandatory to enter information into these fields, but it is best if you do. In fact, so much so that over at Ancestry.com, they'll toss in some pop-ups if you don't do it to try to help you improve your results right out of the gate. They know that if you add a place and a time, you can avoid a lot of headache slogging through results that aren't the person you're looking for. And I think Ancestry does the best job with the initial search form, giving a real wide variety of filter options. In fact, did you know that Ancestry now offers Smart Search? It boasts an even more intuitive search form and enhanced logic to focus on more relevant results. It will separate your results into records, people, and photos, and additional filters let you sort by record type, life event, location, and more. So you might want to start broad with just the name, approximate birth year, and the place, and then gradually tighten the filters as you spot your likely candidate rather than kind of over-filtering right away. You can activate Ancestry's Smart Search by clicking the link in the upper right corner of the search form. It's currently in beta form, and don't worry because you can switch back to the regular form whenever you want to. I would experiment and I would compare them. Try the same search in Classic and Smart Search to see which gives you the best results. So the bottom line here is to take advantage of the search prompts for time and place when searching for records at your favorite genealogy website. Even if you're not absolutely sure, put in your best guess because it does make a big difference. Don't fish in just one pond. Cast your net into the ocean with Google. Ancestry and Family Search are well-stocked fishing ponds, but Google lets you cast your net into the vast ocean of online materials. Out there are historical societies, old newspapers, personal blogs, digital archives just waiting to be discovered. But again, rather than just searching for names, we've got to communicate to Google the time and the place. So let me teach you how to fish, my friends. If you use this strategy I'm about to share with you, you're going to reduce your unwanted search results by at least 75%. So start by typing the person's name into the search field. Next, put some quotation marks around the name. What this does is it explains to Google that you want this exact name and the spelling, and it has to be on every result that you get. So I might put Lars Larson in quotes. I also recommend putting an asterisk between the first and the last name. This will allow Google to return results to you that might have a middle name or a middle initial between the first and the last name. Because remember, the quotes are communicating exact. So the asterisk gives us a little bit more wiggle room, allowing for the possibility of a middle name or initials. So Lars, asterisk, Larson, in quotes, and there's a space on either side of that asterisk. That can return Lars J. Larson, Lars Johan Larson, and so on. Next, we'll add a place. And in this case, I'll enter the name of the town where the person lived during the time frame when I'm researching them. But it could also be where they were born or where they died. Hopefully these places will be mentioned in the items that we're trying to find online about them. So I put Winthrop in quotes to make it a mandatory part of any web page that Google finds. Then I'll put in Minnesota or MN, and Google does understand the abbreviations, but I'm not going to put this in quotes. I do that because a lot of times the state, the county, or the country isn't actually mentioned next to the name of the town. And I don't want to miss results like that. So putting it in this way tells Google that Minnesota is important, but it's not mandatory. And then I'll add a time frame. So how do we do that in Google? We use a num range search. We're going to take the 4-digit starting year. In this case, Lars was born in 1871. And then we're going to put 2 periods, and then we'll add the ending year of the range. Now, in this case, Lars died in 1937. So my search reads 1871 ... 1937. There are no spaces between the numbers and the periods. Num range searching like this tells Google, show me pages that mention any year in this time span, which is perfect for finding online genealogical information because it so often includes dates. And finally, just for good measure, I will add the word genealogy. Now, I'm not using quotation marks because I don't know if the online item or web page will actually say genealogy. But this way, Google understands my query has something to do with genealogy and family history, and it's going to skew my results that direction. This is a huge help when you have a person with a common word for a surname, like Green or Marshall. You're telling Google, this is about family history, focus on people. So my search query now reads Lars, Larson, in quotes, Winthrop, in quotes, Minnesota, 1871 ... 1937. This combination of exact name, flexible middle name, required town, optional state, and year range cuts away most of the irrelevant Larsons from other centuries and places. Run a Google search like this, and you'll avoid the people from around the world with the same name who lived in completely different centuries. And once you review the initial results, you can add more keywords to help you kind of catch the big fish by adding perhaps the first name of his wife or the name of a sibling or other keywords that are uniquely associated with him. Stay right there because I've got more ways for you to use location to your best advantage right after this. This episode is brought to you by Archives.com, the trusted destination for anyone eager to explore their family history. Archives.com offers access to millions of historical records, from birth and marriage certificates to census data, military records, and more, giving you the tools to dive deep into your genealogy with confidence. Their platform is designed to be user-friendly. It makes it easy for beginners and seasoned researchers alike to navigate through vast collections of documents. Behind the simple search interface, powerful technology works tirelessly to deliver accurate, relevant results, helping you uncover stories that have been waiting to be told for generations. Whether you're hoping to find long-lost relatives, confirm family stories, or trace your roots back many decades, Archives.com offers a cost-effective way to make genealogy research enjoyable and rewarding. Don't let your family's history stay hidden. Visit Archives.com today and start your journey of discovery. Your family's past is just a few clicks away. Visit Archives.com. Another way to turn the location into the perfect fishing lure, because we are continuing with our fishing analogy, is to create a locality guide for genealogy research. A locality guide is your custom reference manual for researching in a specific place and time. It tells you what records exist, where they're kept, and what was happening there at the time. It can help you understand the world that your ancestor lived in so that you don't miss any records or context as you research. You might be able to find an existing locality guide through Google searching. So, for example, if I were Googling for a guide to do genealogy research where my great-grandfather was born, which was Cotton, Kreis Johannesburg, East Prussia, I could search for that. But oftentimes, published guides are for more generalized areas. I might find one for East Prussia or maybe Kreis Ortelsburg if I got lucky, but I'm not likely to find one that gets specific about cotton. And the guide needs to cover the time frame that I'm researching as well. So I really like to create my own locality guide, maybe including some of the information from a guide of the general area that I find online, but customizing it with information about the specific town and the local area. I can do a lot of research with AI, with Google search to find that information and get it all in one place on my locality guide. Now you can create this in a Word document, a spreadsheet, or any other format that works for you. What matters is getting the key components that are going to help you be more successful. So let's talk about what your locality guide should include. Historical background and context of the area. So that's going to include formation dates, when the state, county, or town was established. Boundary changes, information about which jurisdictions previously covered the area, or if it's split or merged, which determines where records are held. Significant events, things like major courthouse fires, natural disasters, or wars that could have caused record losses. That's going to impact your research. Settlement patterns. This includes information on migration, major ethnic and religious groups and industry. Geographical data and maps. Now, we need both modern and historical maps, particularly those that show neighboring jurisdictions, and if available, maybe even some plat maps showing property owners. You can literally find thousands of free downloadable historic maps over at davidrumsey.com. However, it can be a little bit challenging to navigate that website and getting the map that you really want or need. So I have a free video class on that. It's called davidrumsey.com, Free Maps and How to Find Them, which you can find at the Genealogy Gems YouTube channel, as well as my website, genealogygems.com. Just click videos in the menu at the website and you'll find it there. And if you're a premium member, you can also download the handy step-by-step 7-page e-guide on using davidrumsey.com to find old maps. Now, those historic maps at davidrumsey.com can reveal township boundaries, neighboring landowners, and old road networks. All of these are clues that help confirm that you've got the right families in the right place. And in the geographical data and maps section of your locality guide, it should also include jurisdiction details. This is your guide to the current and former names of towns and villages and townships over time. The guide should also have a section for repository and archive information. This is a directory of places where records are held, including government offices, things like courthouses, the county clerk, the probate court, town halls, and vital record offices. It's also going to include libraries and archives, including public libraries, state archives, university special collections, genealogical and historical societies. Local historical societies often hold specialized, unpublished collections that you are going to want. And also, you might want to include details and policies. So this includes contact information, operating hours, fees, and policies. So, for example, whether or not they allow digital photography. The next section on the guide is available record sources. This is a comprehensive list of available record types, both online and offline, including vital records, specifically noting when registration began, land and property records, probate records, wills, estates, guardianships, church records, of course, newspapers, links to archives with obituaries and local news, military records, cemetery records, and be sure to include clickable links to specific digitized record sets that you find as you're compiling your information for the guide. And one of the most important links will be to the Family Search Wiki page for that location or similar online guides. Be sure and search for that and add it to your guide. And finally, I like to include personal notes and strategies in my location guides. Each time I update a guide, I jot down the date at the top, and months or years later, that quick note tells me how current it is before I dive back in. And if I make trips to the location, it's really nice to have a section for local logistics, information on local restaurants, where to park, and other things that are going to come in handy when I'm out on a research trip. I'll show you how to speed up the process of gathering all this information and creating these location guides with the help of AI in my premium video class. It's called Location Guides Turbocharged with AI, and that also includes a downloadable cheat sheet. I'll put a link below this video on YouTube and in the show notes of the podcast over at genealogygems.com. And we can't talk about researching a place without talking about the best geographic tool for research, analysis, and storytelling. It's Google Earth Pro. This is your geographic power tool. Okay, I guess we're not fishing anymore. In our analogy, we're building stuff, okay? I'm not talking about the web version of Google Earth that you use in your browser or the Google Earth app on your phone. I'm not talking about Google Maps. I'm talking about Google Earth Pro, the free software that you download to your computer. The desktop Google Earth Pro is the only version that lets you create overlays and complex projects and multimedia and really take advantage of the full range of tools that you as a genealogist really need. I've been teaching on this subject and writing about it in my book since 2010, and yet it's still my favorite geographic tool for genealogy. You can use the historic maps in the Layers panel, create map overlays of maps that you have, including those old plat maps of your ancestors' property. You can figure out what the address is today of a property where your family lived centuries ago. You can view locations over time with historic imagery and plot your ancestors' migration patterns. And one of my personal favorites is to create dynamic, interactive data visualizations of my ancestors' world. I embed photos, videos, digitized books, documents, 3D models, old maps like the Sanborn fire insurance maps, and customized place marks all along the way to plot out their every move. I call this a family history tour, and when you see that information that you have gathered about your family in this format, you're going to be able to answer questions, solve mysteries, and be able to share these as interactive tours, recorded videos, or even HD images. If you've never used Google Earth Pro for genealogy, do this. Pick just one ancestor and build a simple tour, including maybe one home, a burial place, maybe the place where they were married. You'll start seeing questions and patterns that never show up in a plain list of records. I mean, I could go on and on about using Google Earth Pro for genealogy, and in fact, I do in my book and a number of my videos. The point is, you really haven't explored the place of your ancestors until you have brought Google Earth into your toolbox. Or should I say your fishing tackle box. So we've been talking about how to explore and leverage the geographic location information to enhance your genealogy research. But the other key component is the time frame. And there's one tool that professional genealogists consistently use that you should be too, and that's a timeline. Timelines are one of the best tools for separating people with the same name. When you lay out the events, ages, and places, you quickly see, oh, this Mary can't be the same as that Mary because their lives overlap in impossible ways. Now, there are many reasons to create a timeline, but generally speaking, they fall into two main categories: research-focused and sharing-focused. A research-focused timeline organizes your data chronologically, gives you a different perspective on your data by helping you visualize it chronologically, which can really help you generate new research opportunities. Helps you analyze your data by identifying conflicts and gaps. It's a way to confirm the research that you've done really does make sense. And it puts your ancestors' life in historical context because you can add things in that are going on in their town or their country and the world that might impact their life and the decisions that they made. There are many timeline tools out there, but really the easiest place to start is your own genealogy software where you house your family tree. Programs like Roots Magic, Legacy Tree, and others have timeline reports that instantly draw directly from the data that you've already entered. You could export it as a PDF or a CSV file, and then you could upload it to your favorite AI chatbot with a prompt like, add key historical events from this time and place that might have affected this person. A sharing-focused timeline is focused on your intended audience and the story that you want to tell them about the individual or the family. So for sharing, I would think more about short stories rather than every date, every move, every job, every major historical event. So your audience gets a clear story arc, not just a wall of dates. And these could be shared online, turned into a video, printed out, even hung on the wall. Again, there are so many different tools available to create your timeline. For a highly visual one suitable for sharing, take a look at Adobe Express. It's free. It includes loads of templates. You can just search for timeline. And most importantly, you can export your timeline, and there's no subscription required. Now, if you really want to create something professional looking that's interactive and highly visual, check out TikiTalki.com. It lets you build interactive multimedia timelines, so you could add things like images and audio and video, and even display them in 3D, which is really wonderful for family history websites or presentations. You can create one free timeline, and then it requires a subscription. But if you want to embed your interactive multimedia timeline on your own family history website, TikiTalki does an incredible job. You can see some great examples on their website before you buy. The information you include will depend on your intended use, but considering that criminal cold case investigators use timelines successfully over and over to solve their cold cases, there's no reason for us as genealogists not to use them. They are a powerful tool. You can learn more about creating timelines again on my website and in the description below the video. You know, your ancestor is a name anchored to a very specific time in a very specific place. Use that to tighten your searches on the big genealogy websites. Tame Google so it brings you fewer but better results. Build timelines that reveal conflicts and patterns, and map your ancestors' world in Google Earth Pro so you can actually see their life unfold. When you do that, you're not just collecting records. You're building a richer story that you can trust and share. Are you ready to take your family history research beyond names and dates? If so, newspapers.com is a game changer. With access to over 1 billion pages of historical newspapers, you can uncover rich, untold stories about your ancestors that you won't find anywhere else. Imagine discovering a detailed obituary that reveals the extended family, or a local news story that highlights your great-grandmother's role in the community. Maybe you'll come across a photo capturing a moment in your ancestor's life. Newspapers captured the everyday details, announcements, happenings, achievements, and challenges that paint a fuller picture of who your ancestors were and what their world was like. These sources reveal the social history behind the names on your family tree and help you connect with your past in a personal and meaningful way. Searching is simple and intuitive, letting you explore by name, location, or date to unearth those hidden gems. So you're ready to enrich your research with stories you won't find in traditional records? Visit newspapers.com/genealogy gems today and get 20% off a subscription. Newspapers.com/genealogy gems. All right, before we wrap things up today in this episode, I want to head to the mailbox. I love hearing from all of you, and I've been getting emails and comments over at the YouTube channel and on the podcast, which is great because this is a conversation, my friends. So thank you so much for writing in. And Dana has a really good question here that I wanted to address. She says she's been watching videos about using AI and I'm really excited about trying it out. She says, I've dabbled in ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. While using Google to locate Claude again, somehow I entered use.ai, which apparently is a conglomerate of many bots. In the Roots Tech lectures, they warned about free versions using my content to train their bots. So is there one great AI cloud in the stratosphere, or does each company have their own cloud? I have talked about the Van Warmers in ChatGPT and Boyers in Use.ai. Who is remembering my data? And she says, take care, and I love the content that you put out. Oh, thank you so much, Dana. Well, this is a great question, and the AI landscape is changing quickly. In fact, it's changed a little bit since I first got her question last week. So generally, the thing to keep in mind is that each company maintains its own cloud environment, and it trains its models on the data that you're providing when you're in a specific session in your account. So if you're over at ChatGPT is retaining your information. It's using it in a variety of ways. You can, of course, look at their terms of service about that. But I think the safest route is always just to assume they're using it in all kinds of ways, and maybe ways that you don't want them to. And I say that because then you're going to be very selective about the kind of things you put in there. We might feel more free to talk about and ask questions about our ancestors, but reluctant and cautious about putting anything in there about yourself or living people. AI is a really financially competitive space. It may not seem like it, but they are all jockeying for market domination. So they really don't have an incentive to collaborate with each other. There isn't one great consolidated AI cloud where all of these chatbots put their data, at least as far as we know. Nobody's come out publicly and said that that's the case. Now, having said that, I can say that something just came across my desk this morning, and it is called Lorca, Lorka.ai. This came to me through I would call it a trusted blog. It's about AI in the tech world that I follow. And they mentioned this. They didn't seem to have any concerns about it. It touts itself as your all-in-one AI platform for writing, research, art, and more. It says, with Lorca, you can find every AI model and tool helping you complete any type of project or task for the price of just one platform, saving you time and money. Want to write the perfect email or meet a project deadline? Try out our different AI models. So you can try this out. It does tap into Claude and ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini. So it's got several different chatbots. It's selected particular models for each one. And that kind of gives you a one-stop shopping place to go. I'm sure that whatever you have to pay in a subscription, they must somehow be compensating these other chatbots that they're using in order to do that. I don't know what the mechanics are behind it. But, nothing's free. Just know that you'd want to check the pricing on it, see how it compares. If you have one particular AI chatbot that you really like and you want to subscribe to it and invest money every month or, yearly to do that, then you might want to compare that with the cost of using Lorca. But you've got to make sure that they're actually using the model, the version of the chatbot that you like, that you're used to using. So there are lots of different models and different versions, and they do have different abilities. So that's all I can say about Lorca because I haven't really used it yet, but it is a place where they are attempting to solve this problem of consolidating all these different chatbots in one location so that you don't have to jump from browser tab to browser tab. It's interesting that they can do this because all these companies have tremendous incentive to have you over at their website using their tools and just totally involved in their offering. So check that out. It's Lorca.ai. Now, she also mentions here that in watching some of these videos, they were talking about that the free versions are using your content that you're putting into the conversation, into the prompt box, to train them. And I would go a step further. I would assume that they, even in the subscription version, are doing the same thing. Again, each one of them has terms of service. Most people never, ever read it. They're huge. And the safest route is just to assume they are using your conversations to train their models. In fact, you need to be aware that many times they are randomly picking from the different interactions that are going on their chatbots, and real people are looking at them. So there are real human beings who do look at this and kind of see what the interactions are. Of course, who knows how often that would ever happen with your content, because there are millions, if not billions, of conversations going on in chatbots every day. But they do say that that is something that they do. They reserve the right to do. So the bottom line is, yes, they train the chatbots using the conversations, and sometimes real people do audit those and take a look at them. And that means we've just got to be extremely careful and cautious about what we're saying and what we're putting in there. Now, personally, I don't use the website use.ai that Dana mentions. In fact, I looked it up, and they are not very transparent about who's behind it. The way she got to this was she did some Googling. She was trying to find Claude. So rather than going to Claude.ai, she Googled it. And of course, you're going to have sponsored ads in there that present themselves and look like they are what you were looking for. And you'll click through. And in fact, their website could look a lot like Claude or whatever the chatbot was you're looking for. And in fact, it's not. And that was the case with use.ai. It was not Claude. It looked like it. It presented itself that way in the results. So I did some digging into the company, just trying to ask AI, trying to ask Google a little bit more about it. Who is behind use.ai? And it says it's a company registered in Claymont, Delaware, USA, which means it could pretty much be anybody. And it could be a bad actor. There's no public information on their website identifying who the specific founders are, who the CEO is, or any team members. So we have no clue who use.ai is. And we just have to assume that they are all about collecting your data. That's what it's about, because that's valuable to them. Data is money, and your data can be sold, and lists are sold, and cookies are put on your browser. There's all kinds of stuff that goes on. And there is no one website that I would ever say you can 100% trust that they're not doing that. Well, except Genealogy Gems. we really don't. I'm not interested in your data, and you're not doing that kind of interaction at genealogygems.com. But, all websites have a certain amount of cookies and things they have to use just to keep it running and make it interact with you so that you can get the information that you want off the website. So that's normal. But you would expect the companies behind it to be very transparent about who they are and why they built it and how long they've been around. In fact, Dana followed up with me on an email, and she calls them wrappers. Use.ai is kind of like a wrapper, a cover, a facade for using a chatbot. I'm not even so sure, though, Dana, that Claude is actually the chatbot that you're using when you go to use.ai. I mean, they may give you the sense, use our interface and you can tap into these different chatbots, or you can use Claude through us. But I wouldn't assume that. And that was my big suspicion with Lorca, was that they said, we've got access to all of these websites and you can do them all from right here. I think the difference for me with Lorca was that they did have some transparency. They've got an About Us section. They have a privacy policy. It's all very clear. They have a refund policy on the home page. And they were recommended by an AI blog that I follow and I trust. So that's kind of one of the best ways to navigate this great new Wild West of AI, is to find voices that you trust, people who are checking this out and doing some of the homework and trying to help you navigate your way. So I hope you feel like that's what we do here, because that is what I'm striving to do. Thank you so much for writing in. Good question. And I think one that's probably been on the minds of other people who may have run into the same thing when trying to Google for a chatbot. Well, that's it for this episode. I want to tell you, we're doing a little celebration around here. I happened to notice that the day I was turning in my Lisa's Picks column to the editors over at Family Tree Magazine, and it hit me as I was looking at my records. It's my 50th column. 50 columns of Lisa's Picks I have written for Family Tree Magazine over the years. I can't believe how fast the time goes. I mean, we did hundreds of podcast episodes over there, and I'm still very much writing the column. I really enjoy bringing those little gems to you in each issue. But oh my word, 50. And there's usually about 5 items that are my favorite picks that I include. So how many is that? Let's get a calculator because I am so bad at math. Is that so pathetic? That's 250. That's what I thought. 250 of my picks that I have shared with you in Family Magazine. So pretty fun stuff. All right, my friends. Well, if you enjoyed this episode and you want to see the visual version, you can watch the video of the 2 most important factors, time and place, over on the show notes page. So you'll find both this audio podcast and the video on the show notes over at genealogygems.com under podcast, and look for episode number 305. And while you're there, I'd love to have you leave some comments and let me know what you think. And if you're a premium member, of course, you can download the PDF cheat sheet of all the show notes and all the links and things that we talked about in this episode. Thank you so much for listening, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.